We're recording?
Yep, we are live.
Alrighty. Want to go ahead and start or give it like another minute?
Give it about, let's just give it to like, easy. Yeah, give it a few minutes. Like, give it like 3, 4 minutes, let people come in.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we'll let the room fill up some. Got some folks in the building.
Yeah, looks like it. How y'all doing?
How you guys doing?
Well,
And
welcome back to campus. If y'all on campus, some people stay at home until February 1st, but welcome back. I hope everyone had a good holiday. Happy New Year. We are in the new year.
sir, Happy New Year. We back in
2021.
2021. Finally made it. It was a long 2020 year. But we made it. We're here, back at school for the semester. So for people that are in here right now, just want to let you know this is a completely like interactive talk. So like anytime you feel you want to interject or you want to like or anything like that, don't like hesitate to unmute yourself and speak up or whatever, voice your opinion or put it in the chat if you want to. This is completely like interactive. We want like to kind of this is a conversation for all of us to have.
So I
So
don't know if you talk, Justin, but they can
oh,
type. They can type.
okay, yeah. Well, in the chat, yeah, because you guys are attendees. Yeah, so you guys in the chat, anytime you guys have anything, you guys can go ahead and just put it in the chat, and me and Carlos will get back to if you guys have any questions or a specific thing of conversation you want to bring up. Um, so apparently we can allow y'all to talk. Um, but we will go ahead and get started. Ready, Carlos?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. So, as we said before, my name is Justin Matthews. I'm a graduating senior physics scholar from Atlanta, Georgia. I currently serve as the 15th Mr. Dilley University, along with um, other things on this campus. And today is a very special day. It is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, a day dedicated to a man that was very much civically engaged and a leader in his community, multiple communities, a reverend. He basically was able to influence a lot of people and just kind of change a lot of people's mindsets and thoughts as to how we should go about living amongst each other, people of different colors. And he took a very unorthodox approach to how other leaders were taking at the time during civil rights times of nonviolence, basically. And he really was strong on that. He really believed that um, approaching situations with nonviolence and basically using peaceful protests and demonstrations was going to be the way. Because he didn't just believe in just basically getting his way. He believed in um, doing it the right way, basically. He believed in the after effect. He didn't just believe in just the right now. He didn't just believe that if we go out here and protest today, that tomorrow they will allow us to vote and they will be fair to us and um, they won't segregate us and all that kind of. No, he knew that basically this is going to be a thing of time, basically. And if we do this the right way right now, basically how we are right now in 2021, how we're able to go to school with white children and other people of other races, and there is no more colored water fountains and things like that. We would never be able to reach that if we were just all the time thinking violence is the answer. Because there would have been no type of compromise made in order for us to be where we're at. So his approach was very much different than what a lot of leaders at the time thought. But we can see that his impact, he had an everlasting impact. So yeah, Carlos, you want to interject?
Yeah, so how are y'all? My name is Carlos Pollard Jr. I'm a graduating senior as well from New Orleans, Louisiana. And MLK Day, I would honestly say that this is one of my favorite holidays. You know, growing up, I always MLK was one of like the key figures that I looked up to growing up. So, and I always tell this story, like growing up, you know, how we had social science fair or social studies fair in elementary and middle school. My mom would always make me uh, like study a black man, and majority of the time it was MLK. So I feel like I know his life like the back of my hand. He was like the role model for me growing up since I didn't really have a father figure. Um, and like Justin said, MLK really was the start of what we're living in now. He is the one that not only made change, but he's the one to show us that when we work for something and we're intentional with it, then we can get to where we have to go. And today we just want to talk about civic engagement and how civic engagement honors MLK. How we can't really settle for less. We have to demand what we want. We have to demand what we need in order to continue to climb up the ladder as a race, as a group, as a group of people.
Facts. Thank you, Carlos. That was definitely a great insight. Um, and yes, he's a great man. He did a lot of great things. Um, the works of what he did, even after he was assassinated, it's still going on today. So that's just how impactful he was. And one thing we also wanted to talk about was just kind of how we kind of really got to this point of where we are right now as we stand today on March 18th, 2021. What kind of a lot of things that kind of there's a lot of things that have led up to this moment of where we are, but basically there's something that was a key point in what was going on that kind of really pushed, I feel, us as Black people to get to this point of where we are now. So much has happened in the last year. Of course, we all know the horrible pandemic, COVID-19, has really taken a toll on our families, on our personal life, on our ability to have like kind of freedom, just going out and doing things. We all had to kind of just readjust to how that has all gone, basically. And in the midst of that, people are on their phone a lot. People are on their phone a lot, like a lot more often than they usually are. If you look at the numbers and the stats from all the major phone industries, people was on their phone a lot more. Social media was being used a lot more because people had to stay inside more. So if you notice, around the time of just for reference, Black police brutality has been happening for a very, very long time. I feel like the only difference is that last year, people started using their camera phone. People started recording it a lot more often than they had before in the past. We're seeing like so many reports of police brutality and so many things of corruption within our police system and just our justice system, just in general. And now it's being put on social media, and now it's being talked about heavily. And I think that is ultimately one of the reasons that it sparked that one of the things that sparked Black Lives Matter movement, basically. So many people seeing so much corruption and so many wrong things happening, basically. We just as people could not sit back and let that keep going on and on. So basically the Black Lives Matter, I feel like, is the most crucial part to getting us to where we stand right now in terms of passing basically us getting out there and marching to the polls for the presidential runoff election, which ultimately we were able to put in President Biden and Vice President Harris, which is the first Black female vice president ever in the history. So we've already done something historical as Black people just in that. And not only that, did we stop there, but we also carried that same energy in Georgia in the Georgia Senate runoff election, which is very, very, very impactful. We were able to put the very, very first Black man into the Senate in Georgia. That's never happened before. That just shows you how crazy how crazy time is going. We've never had a Black senator in Georgia. So the impact that had, and basically we were able to win the Senate. Basically, more Democrats are in the Senate than Republicans, which is like very much historic. So that if you don't know, a lot of people put a lot of their energy on the executive branch of our government, when realistically the legislative branch is really what's going to be the one they pass the bills. They're the ones who make the bills. They're the ones who pass the bills. really they hold a lot of weight. Your stimulus checks are all in their hands, basically. Trump, or whoever else the president can propose this and that, but if the Senate, and the House of Representatives don't vote on it, then it doesn't matter, basically. So just the impact of us sparking our own little revolution, kind of, basically against all the corruption with the Black Lives Matter movement that happened this past summer. And basically, it took us basically going through a lot of pain to get to where we are now and really make that impact. So that's a big positive for us, is to see like how something that started off so bad, or started off so like corrupt, has turned to something that has ultimately made us stronger as people.
And I want to kind of focus on the pandemic and the protests that a lot of us participated in that you brought up. So, like you said, the pandemic, first of all, it really came out of nowhere, right? 1 week we were in school, the next week we all got sent home. Um, and no one knew how long it would be. No one really knew anything until lives started being lost. Like I feel like that's when I realized that the pandemic. Actually, I realized that the pandemic was big when my mom was deployed to New York. That's when I knew that it was like really big. At first, I thought, oh, this is just like the flu or something. Like we'll get over it. We'll start back school up, and everything will be regular. And then during this pandemic, and like you said, Black Lives Matter, it's been around for a while, since Trayvon Martin, actually. And police brutality has been around for, years. I feel like I got a I don't want to say a newer respect, but more love for Black people, I would say, when I saw that in the middle of a pandemic, we were willing to risk our lives to go march for something that's so important to us. Um, that's when I realized that. I'm not gonna say that's when I realized, but that's when I was like, you know what, we gonna show up for real. Like I'm willing to risk my family that I live with as well, because of course I'm coming back home after going to a protest, right? In the middle of a pandemic that's a virus that's killing people, to go march for my brothers and sisters that's being taken by police officers just for being Black.
Right.
The pandemic, I mean, not the pandemic, the protests, I would say the protests lasted for a good bit. I don't know the exact time frame. I'm not sure if some cities are still marching right now. Um, to my knowledge, they're not. But the protest lasted for a good while in the middle, in the middle, or I guess I would say at the beginning of the pandemic, at the beginning of COVID, when doctors and medical staff didn't even know how to treat COVID, and people were still willing to go outside, march for something that they believed in. And if we have to be honest, this is something that MLK started. Like this is the path that he started. He took that first step with protesting. He took that first step with demanding change. And for us to just follow in his footsteps, no matter the circumstances that we're in, I think that if that doesn't honor MLK, I don't know what else does.
Right. I agree. And Carlos hit a good point talking about kind of at the peak of the movement that was happening over the summer, the Black Lives Matter. Basically, he spoke on how there was a time of uncertainty, and people were kind of like, well, basically, if I'm not protesting, if I'm not out there on the front lines, I'm not really like, and I'm a Black person, I'm not really like, really doing my part, really like, because that's all I really know. Like, that's the only way I know how to get engaged civically. But we've seen that over time, as the protests have kind of gone down, as until present day, the amount of protests that have happened, the demonstrations that have happened in the streets, we still see the civic engagement still there through these different things, these different ways we see it now through voting. We've had all these marches to polls, through Georgia voting, through basically all these social media initiatives that have been started, all of these things that basically have just been like going on, like all these things of writing to the senators, coming down to your COVID funds. All those kind of things are basically us using our voices and doing it in a different way than we might have thought at the beginning of this movement, basically. a lot of us were kind of confused. Like, if I'm not out there protesting, I'm not out there in the front lines, I can't. How do I become civically engaged? But we have seen now that basically there are a million ways to become civically engaged in today's world, and there are so many opportunities for you to become civically engaged. And I think that really speaks to Dr. Martin Luther King and basically what he really wanted to see. Basically, he didn't want us all just, but he didn't. I don't think Dr. Martin Luther King envisioned us as Black people in the streets every single day. Like, I don't think he envisioned that to basically be our goal. Basically, he said that as something that we needed to do to get to where we need to be. But I don't think he would ever wish upon us that we are in the streets getting sprayed by water hoses and getting attacked by dogs. It's something that basically at the time he had to do. And at certain times, we as Black people have seen these are things that we have to do in order to get our voices heard. But we have also worked our way up in the system to where we can do these things multiple ways. We have the ways of taking away from their pockets now. If you guys look at going to Martin Luther King, and I'm looking at some of the most historic things he's done. If you guys know about the Montgomery bus boycott, I'm sure you guys do. It was basically, I believe it was 380 days. It was about 380 days that they basically boycotted the buses, and that all sparked from famous activist Rosa Parks, basically. And basically, when she didn't give up her seat, that's really what sparked like the boycott. So King, being a leader, being a civil rights activist leader, he came in and said, "Hey, we don't necessarily have the means to just say we're not going to accept this and that's going to just be it. We have to put action behind our words, basically." So not only did they just say, "Hey, we're going to do this. We don't agree with the transportation system and the government's corrupt and all that." He didn't just sit back and say that and expect things to happen. They took immediate action. They literally made a strict deadline of, "Hey, all Black people that are in this community, do not use this bus, do not use this taxi system, do not use the public transportation system for 300 for over a year, basically." And that was their stance to basically take the money out of the pockets of the people that were basically oppressing them, which is like very, very powerful. And one thing that I've seen has sparked is a lot of these Black businesses that we have nowadays. And today, you've seen since the beginning of Black Lives Matter to today, you've seen the impact that it's had. You see how us as Black people in today's world, we are now creating all these Black businesses and creating these businesses of people that these multi-billion-dollar industries that basically have exposed ourselves as being racist or exposed ourselves as being prejudiced. Basically, and we have shown that, hey, we can do our own thing. We can make our own food. We can create our own businesses. We can create our own materials, our own things we can sell, whatever. We can do this. We can start this up. We can invest into Black banks. We can do these kind of things now that people weren't really doing before in the past because we see the urge for it now. We see that this is a big, impactful way to hurt our oppressors' pockets, is to basically take money out their pockets, basically, by owning businesses and stop buying from them, basically. And Dr. Martin Luther King, basically, he was this is one person that had a whole bunch of other leadership around him, people that are thinking like-minded like him, that were able to spark this movement and actually make this happen, not just something to talk about. Imagine if we spent a whole year not eating at Chick-fil-A, or spent a whole year not buying from Home Depot, because Home Depot has exposed itself to be racist. So if we just did a whole year of that, how much the impact of that company will lose money. We just see like things that Martin Luther King did basically are kind of turning over in today's age, and it's kind of like seeing like, hey, this is how he did it, but like how do we kind of incorporate it in today's world where things are a little bit different, but the ultimate premise of why we're all still out here in the streets is because racism still exists. So we have to understand we can't get too far away from the like what the important part of what Martin Luther King was doing. We have to also remember like today is a different age, but how do we impact it in our day in today's world and stay civically engaged?
The Black dollar is like really powerful.
Right.
Like really powerful. And I also wanted to bring up, or not bring up, just touch on it for a small second, was how you brought up, not everyone could go to the protests. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to stress to, people that's in our generation, people that's older than us, and even people that's coming after us, that not everyone's role is to be out protesting. There's roles for everything. You could be on social media. You can be the one that's gonna write the senator. I'm sorry, y'all. My doorbell is about to ring. I'm watching them walk up. You can be the one You can be the one that's going to write your senator, call your senator, call your local leaders. Like your role doesn't have to be out there protesting. But I also kind of wanted to go on to like the next topic. And I guess my question is, it's a question for both of us, but why do you think that civic engagement is important for college students?
All right. I would say, and this is open to the floor as well, to you guys as well. I'm gonna go ahead and answer. I feel like civic engagement is super important for us as college students because we're kind of in the period now. We're in that chapter of life where we just came from high school, living in our parents' houses, kind of our whole lives basically, to the point now we have our first time of freedom. And now this next chapter is like life. Like you're about to really be out there. Your biggest and most important person to take care of is yourself, basically. You have to learn how to live on your own, take care of yourself. How does the government work? How does taxes work? How does saving money work? How does all of those things work? Basically, all these adult things that you see your parents or your guardians or caretakers do, basically. And one of those things is being civically engaged, voting. For the presidential election, that only happens every 4 years. But all those elections that happen in between, you just see like the Senate, judges, legislators, uh, whatever else. Yeah, school boards, anything that's being voted on, basically, these all go in the range of basically being civically engaged and being civically active because you see that basically we have this period of time to really, really learn, like not just go out into the world and be that percentage of people or young adults that are kind of not really caring about elections. And even though we have the most power because there's so many of us, basically, we have the ability to really sit back and learn and really see, hey, before it gets too serious, we're like, one day you're gonna have kids, one day you're gonna be one to start a family, all those kind of things. And these things that are being implemented by our justice system and by our legislative system, all those kind of things are being implemented basically, and they're going to affect you directly in the next 4 years. So let's say Joe Biden be inaugurate Joe Biden on January 20th. So of January 2025, we will be like if he's not reelected, we will be having a whole other person come in. Let's say the next person is another person that's similar to Trump or whatever. And at that time, you're having kids, you're having a family. So now these things that he's passing, these stimulus check bills, these taking money away from our education system, the money's putting into the military, the frontline workers, all those kind of things are going to impact you a little bit more direct because right now we're still young college students. Like it's not directly impacting us as much as our mothers and fathers are, or people that are, in that age range where they're really paying for their own apartment, paying house bills, paying car notes, all those kind of things. It's going to, for real, really directly impact you then. So this is kind of like a practice round for you to really start engaging yourself into your community and really learning your community, because you can't help your community unless you know your community. If for me, when I go back home, I know I live in a predominantly white area. So basically, when I go out there, me campaigning out there is not the same thing as me campaigning out here, because I know that my impact is not going to be the same as it is out there. So I'm not going to exert all of my energy into my community. That basically, I'm doing my work for Black people. Like that's my primary goal, is to help Black people. And so when I come back to Dillard and I'm able to basically have an impact on putting the first Black person here, putting the first Black person there, how do we how do we unify as Black people to go and do this together? Not just these percentage of people go do this. No, like all Black people, we can all agree that this is something that's morally wrong, racism or something like that. And how do we all come together and work for a solution basically that's going to fit all of our deeds and all of our means basically. That's like really why, like, I feel like it's important for us to really start practicing how do you get civically engaged and kind of find your niche. Like we said, Carlos said, protesting is not going to be for everybody. It's not going to be safe for everybody, even when COVID's over. That's just kind of like, it's very like, it's a lot of things can happen basically. So what ways can you be impactful? Because saying that I don't have a way to get impactful is not good enough basically. We've proven in these past couple elections and everything that's been going on that basically that's not an answer. Basically, there's some ways you can impact through social media, through actually being out there physically, through going door to door, for actually meeting your senators, for actually meeting representatives, from actually writing them emails, from actually trying to be those positions, trying to be the next judge, trying to be the next attorney that gets the next person off. Whatever it might be, basically, there are a million ways to get civically engaged. And I feel like college, especially Dillard University, is giving us so many opportunities for us to really showcase our passions of civic engagement, what really is going to bring you in, because there's so many things going on out here just in this community. You can see you saw a plethora of black young politicians trying to take new roles basically in our government, basically people running for mayor, people running for governor, people running for councilmen, people running for Congress, all these positions that people are filling in for. And you see specifically in this area that is a lot of black people. That's very inspiring for me. It's inspired for me to drive through Gentilly and see a million signs in the middle of the road of black people that are trying to basically make an impact on their community, basically. So these are just different ways that you can be civically engaged, but utilize college, utilize the time that we have now to really find your niche and find what you can do. You can be developing something that you can do the rest of your life, basically. You want to be somebody that works with the voter registration stuff, and that's something that you can be your niche. And that only happens 4 times a year for the presidential election, whatever election else happens. You can basically help out with that. You're being civically engaged by doing that. So it's just kind of finding your niche. I think that's what college is really for, is finding what you're good at when it comes to being civically engaged, because we all have something that we can help contribute, especially as black people. We have to work together.
So I guess for me, why is civic engagement important for college students? For me, is because just like you said, Justin, this is where you really find out, or this is where this college is really where you get your feet wet, right? This is like your introduction to adulthood, I guess. It's your first time really, away from your parents, and you're really just doing the thing by yourself, right? I think that a lot of times, and I'm not saying that everyone needs to be civically engaged, but you need to be civically informed. You need to know what's going on in your community. You need to know, what laws or what taxes are going up, like who's running, who's going to represent you. And I think that in college, allowing, you know, uh, before COVID, of course, allowing people to come speak on campus, and to get to meet these different people that's running for these different positions in our communities, um, is just as important as being civically informed, because now like, okay, so Orleans has a Orleans Parish School Board person, but they don't have an Orleans Parish School Board president. Um, Compared to Jefferson Parish, they have a Jefferson Parish School Board president. So Orleans, like, just those different communities, just those different positions in each community. I'll say is what I say why civic engagement is important for college students, knowing, or I guess going to a new area, and how do I want to put this? Because of course we're all not going to be in New Orleans our whole life, or whatever university you attend, you're always going. Well, most people move, settle down somewhere else. So I'm trying to see how I want to put this into words, because of course not every state is the same, not every city is the same. So I will say that civic engagement is important because, you coming from Atlanta to New Orleans, and now you have to kind of learn about New Orleans politics, right? Or know what's going on in the area that you're staying in. And then from New Orleans, let's say you go to another state, and now you have to learn about their politics. So being a fast learner in civic information.
No, I feel that, because I just put the question in the chat too for anybody that's following along and wants to know what we were talking about. But I agree with that, Carlos, because like he said, each state is different. Basically, everywhere you go is basically they have different rules and stuff. But that's a part of being civically engaged and being civically aware. Is when you go to these new places, having that understanding that you learning this information right here is not only just for you to say that you're smart. This is actually going to directly impact you. Like, this is like your birthright to be able to, like, this is what people have died for. This is what people have fought for you to be able to have the right to go and voice your opinion, voice your thought. Like, you have the option, you have the ability basically to vote in the person that you feel is going to best represent you, basically. And that should be not taken lightly, because at one point before 1955, 56, I believe, we were not able to do that. Basically, I just made a Twitter post basically, whenever Martin Luther King led the March to Selma, in Alabama, basically for voter registration rights, basically. And shortly at that summer, voters registration was in the 15th Amendment was basically a bill was passed by Congress to give equal rights to all Black people to vote, basically. And we just see like there's people that literally were sprayed down with water hoses, like killed, like bit, like dogs bit them, all those kind of things. Like they were not able to just freely go up to the polls and be like, hey, I'm about to go vote, or like, oops, I forgot, let me go on my phone real quick. And they didn't have those opportunities. It was like you had to go sit there and wait in line and hope that you were able to vote, basically, not because of anything was wrong with you, but just because it was corrupt and they said, no, you can't. So you have to also remember like the extremes of like people, what people had to go through to ensure that you have a vote. Nobody can deny you a vote. That is a part of like your, like I said, your birthrights. Like that is a part of your rights, is to be able to vote, basically. So when you, or not even just vote, but just being civically aware of what's going on in your community, like Carlos said, like taxes, all these things that rise up and all those things. Like at one point, people were not telling people these kind of things. They just kind of like you figured out, or you had to just figure it out. But now we have all these resources that are available to us. So let's not waste those tools and those opportunities of voicing our opinions, because your vote and you being civically engaged is always going to equal your voice, basically. Like that's how you, like out of all these millions of people that live in this country, this is how you stand out, and this is how you let yourself be heard, basically. So you have to always utilize that, understand the importance of that, because it's not something that was just given to us, it's something that we had to basically fight for, die for. Go ahead, Carlos. You had something you want to interject?
Yeah. So earlier conversation, brought up about turning Georgia blue. So we turned Georgia blue for the president election, and now we are also for the Senate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know that you did some work with like HBCU Heroes. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Okay, so basically HBCU Heroes is they're an initiative that basically supports their main goal is to really help out HBCU athletics, basically. So they host a lot of different gaming tournaments and a lot of different. They're trying to bring a lot of different EA Sports and all those different types of branding. And they have a lot of celebrities that work with them, basically. But with that, they do everything that basically supports anything HBCU. So one of the things that they were doing this year specifically was working with the election. So they did it. They did about 3 or 4 voter registration initiatives, basically, and I was able to work on those campaigns with them, where I was able to phone bank, I was able to send letters to the senators. Um, I was able to go house to house, of course, safely with the mask and everything like that. Was able to hand out do some canvassing, and just a lot of social media like activities and a lot of social media posts. Still to this day, I'm an ambassador for them, so that's what I do. But basically, like working with them really like is inspiring. Like doing stuff like that is inspiring because it shows you like you're not the only person. Like it kind of feels like at certain times when I'm like really going hard for like civic engagement, like people voting and all those kind of things, it kind of feels like, dang, when I'm with that same energy reciprocated, like, yeah, Justin, I got your back, bro. Like we know this is important, blah blah blah. It kind of can be discouraging because it's like, dang, like I wish people felt the same way I did feel about like how important this is. But it's like working in an initiative with a lot of them were college students. Most of them were college students, actually. One of them being Spencer Jones that goes here. He's at Dillard University. And also Chandler, she goes to A&T right now, but she works with us as well. So those are like just seeing how this has brought us closer and things like that. It's just inspiring to be around other people that have the same mindset of you, like how important this is in the will of people, like how much when they feel something is important, how much they will do for it, basically. And it just really it was an eye opener for me because I noticed I spent a lot of time on social media not really being as productive. Like I'm just kind of on there scrolling on, TikTok, on Instagram, Twitter, blah, blah, blah. But then kind of like this election kind of gave me a new different meaning and look on like, how do I utilize my time? I'm not out there protesting right now and all that, but I am doing something that's just super, super impactful, which is I'm over here like posting this video, posting this image, calling this person up, asking them if they voted, blah, 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 going directly to the source, basically. And like I felt like, hey, I might have had an impact on like 400 votes, like 500 votes. Like I remember one day we were phone banking, it was like 10 of us. And I think we reached out to at least 15,000 people. I know for myself, for sure, I probably reached out to 300 people, 350 people. And that could have been, let's say out of those 350 people that I called and got in contact with, let's say 200 of them actually went to polls and voted because they got a reminder that day from me. Like that makes me feel good going to sleep at night knowing that, hey, like I like did something basically like that reminded somebody or kind of like had an impact on the election. Like I know that I had my one vote, but I know that I was able to impact 300 more votes or 400 more votes potentially or 500 more votes potentially through my whole initiative process and getting people to do it. And it feels good to know like, hey, like this is not just a one man game. It's not a hey, go vote and then I did my job. Like to me, that's not enough. Like to me, I felt like going out and reaching out to other people was gonna the only way this is gonna happen basically. You saw how close the numbers were during the Georgia Senate runoff election. So I was going really, really hard for that. I was posting videos, social media, meeting with people, calling up senators, just all types of stuff I got to do basically during my initiative campaign. And it just really gave me a different appreciation for like just understanding like what's going on in my community and like how I can make an impact. Even if I had one vote, I have the potential to have one vote and to have impact 400 other votes basically. And that's like just super like that's like really great to me. So I was like they actually are a nonprofit organization. So they basically do a lot of things, HBCU Heroes, with a lot of different initiatives. So like just because of the voting, they did the voters registration initiative, but they also have a initiative, like I said, with the sports. So they do a lot of tournaments, stuff like that, and they basically are trying to really engage, getting more high school senior athletes into playing at HBCUs as well. We see that's a big impact. Like we were just talking about the impact of taking money out of your oppressor's hands, basically. These going to Duke and North Carolina and all these big PWIs. Nothing's wrong with that. But going to HBCU is like really taking you have these top 5-star athletes that are supposed to be going to the league directly after are going to HBCUs. That just shows you like how important and how impactful we can really be like off of people, saying like, hey, like there are benefits to that, but listen to like the long-term benefits of what you're doing for, your community if you decide to go to HBCU and stuff like that. And just really inspiring like people to know like HBCUs, we be on it. Like that's what we do. That's kind of the whole big base of what we do with HBCUs here, just showing people that HBCUs are not like a force to be reckoned with. We just saw like a Vice President Harris elect first Black woman to be elected as the vice president. We just saw we have our first Black senator. So it just shows you like how impactful we really can be and just like how impactful you can be if you care enough. So
yeah. Let's shout out the HBCUs. We have a lot of leaders that are graduates from HBCUs. So let's shout them out for sure. I know the mayor of Atlanta. I'm not sure what school she went to, but I know she attended HBCU. Gabrielle Contrell in New Orleans, Xavier graduate. So let's for sure shout them out. Stacey Abrams as well, because she was on the ground working.
She was on it.
She was on it.
She's still on it.
Yeah, she's still on it. Let me not even give my girl no shortcut like that. She's still on it. I think for me, opportunity wise, so currently I'm working with Gary Chambers. He is running for Congress in Louisiana, right? He's running for Cedric Richmond's seat, who's been appointed to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's. He's been appointed to, I don't want to say the seat wrong. He's been appointed to their administration. I don't know
what cabinet.
I forgot which position. But so yeah, Gary Chambers is running for his seat. And I actually got to interview Gary on Dillard's campus a few months ago doing Shop Talk. And from there, we just created a relationship, him, Toya, and I. And he didn't tell us that he was running then. I don't even think that he knew he was running, right? He just kind of reached out to us maybe a week before Christmas and was like, hey, y'all, so look, Cedric's been appointed. The seat is open. I'm thinking about running and I need somebody to be over my youth engagement team. And, I kind of need y'all. So, and this question also kind of goes in like why civic engagement is important for college students as well, because networking opportunities really come, y'all. So automatically I'm like, I'm down. Like I got to meet Gary. He's a really cool dude. He stands by what he says. He's a fighter. I know that if he was elected, he'll represent somebody who looks like me. Like he'll be a good representation of someone who looks like me, because he's going to push that Black agenda that I need somebody to do in that seat, right? So and then I also got to intern with Urban League and just different organizations that's going to help me build my personal resume, because I do plan on being involved in politics after undergrad. So being civically engaged in college is important because of the network opportunities, because of the people that you meet, even if you don't work with those people anymore. Just building those relationships, right?
I agree.
Yeah. Um, and I guess, I mean, my last question, of course, if the attendees have questions, please drop them. If you have any questions, Justin, you can drop them as well. You can tell me as well. But my last question for us is, so like, what made you be what made you inspired to be civically engaged? Like, where did it start at? What was like, okay, yeah, we really, like, my voice gotta be heard.
Um, I think for me, it was. I think what really ultimately had really sparked, like got my brain going, like, wow, this is something that's kind of messed up or whatever, was ultimately like the Trayvon Martin situation. I believe that what and the reason why that sparked my attention is I believe that she had right before I came to Dillard in 2017. She came in. His mom had came and did a speech, or I know she left her book, but it was a speech that I remember. I remember right before I came to Dillard, my mom made me sit down and watch the interview and her speech and everything like that. And that's when it really hit me. I was about to go to HBCU. Like I told you, I live in a predominantly white area, or whatever. So to me, like this was all new coming to a black area. Well, like living on a historically black campus. I always wanted to go to like a big PWI, applied to LSU, all these other schools, blah blah blah. But basically, like when I heard her speak, that kind of is what got my ears going. Like, hey, like I'm about to be around like people that look like directly like me or whatever, and we're all kind of similarly like have some of the same similar like fears or similar things we think about just when it comes to like the corruption of this like of the country we live in, basically when it comes to police brutality, like not being able to get a certain job because of my skin color, being basically convicted as a criminal, like before I'm even due process, and all those kind of things, like just the way people look at me because of my skin color. It made me really realize. And then recently, what really just took the top off was the George Floyd thing, of course. For me, that's where I really was like, okay, I need to be civically engaged, like starting today. Like there's no type of oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. How do I know? I need to do something. Like I need to do something right now because I feel like if I'm not, I feel like I'm just that one next voice that could potentially tip the scale to like for people to really start opening their ears and for change really happen. So let me just be a part of that. Like I want to be a part of that. I want to see something different happen. And also my sister, where George Floyd was murdered at, my sister, she lived in Minneapolis. Like she lived about couldn't have been more than 25 minutes away from where that happened at. And like she lived down the street from the Target that was burned down. And it was like really like, dang, like it's really like close to home. Like I don't live there, but my sister does, and it's like, wow, like you never know where you would. I never expected a situation like this for my sister to be in, to like really be in this area where like a lot of crazy stuff is happening, like targets are being burned down, people are like, in the streets, like kind of just really upset and mad about the situation. You know what I mean? Which they rightfully had they had they rightfully so like should have been mad basically on what happened, and everything like that, and just really pushing those cases basically. Like I was never really content on like settling down off the George Floyd cases because I know I've seen just in history how those kind of things have gone. Like when all the media is being given to that situation or anything like that, then we're all like, yeah, like we're getting the job done. But then like as soon as the media goes away and goes into the next victim or the next situation, it's kind of like that case kind of is just still in action, and nobody's actually been fully convicted yet or anything like that. So it's just like it makes you think like how do we stop this system, this continuous cycle of black people being killed in the street and nothing happening afterwards. Breonna Taylor was another person that and it was just like just impactful seeing like I live around, I have a lot of like women friends, like I have a lot of friends that are females, and it's like to see like how that was impacting them, like seeing like, hey, like we used to think this is just like a man thing, like only black men really get like killed in these streets and stuff like that, and like as being like the ones that are being shot by the police in the car. But we're seeing like that's not the case. Like it's all black people, and like just one thing I can't stand for is allowing like black women to be taken advantage of, or like for anything like that. So like for me, that's really what pushed me with, especially with Breonna Taylor, and just looking at that. And it's in the light of like looking at my sister, looking at my mom, like, hey, like that could be you, like just doing your job at home and somebody busts up in your house, even though you're not doing nothing, kill you. Like stuff like that is what really sparked me. So I guess it was like really the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor situations when they really hit like national news and everything like that. And I just really felt like, no, it's too much going on for me not to be engaged, for me not to be doing what I need to do, for me not to be calling people, for me not to be reaching out to senators, people that I have open access to. All it takes is for me to put down 2K 1 second and go pick up the phone to call one person. And like I literally like I might have actually made some type of difference. And it's like just to know that's what it is. I think what the problem is that a lot of us, especially people our age, that we struggle with immediate gratification, and we want something to happen like immediately. Like we want to basically like to make an impact or whatever, and to see it like the impact of that like the next day or like 2 weeks later. Like, and it's like we have to understand that like that's not how this is going to work. It's going to be something that we have to all stay glued together and stay strong with, and it's going to take time. Um, we basically can push the envelope and continue to enforce and put pressure on them. But as long as we basically continuously like uh only seek instant gratitude of like what's going on and then kind of lose focus in like the next weeks to come because something else has happened, that's what's going to be the effect. Like we're not going to be able to really accomplish too many things. So it's like I really want to focus on the longevity of like fixing these problems, not just uh getting to next year. Like I want to work on these next things, kind of like how MLK had his vision. He didn't have his vision for the next 5 years. He had his vision for the next 20 years. That's what he was planning for, which a lot of people didn't understand that. So the whole nonviolence approach was basically like he's saying that yeah, we can probably get this underway. Like, you know what I mean, if we go out here and just, you know, be violent and like, you know, force our way into this, but ultimately we have to learn how to coexist with these people because ultimately it's more of them than us in this country. So we have to learn how to coexist, but how do we not back down and not take like these prejudices and these racism and these racist people and just let them walk over us if like that's okay. But at the same time, how do we assert ourselves as people in this country and let people know that we have equal rights and equal freedom? Um, so just really, that's really what sparked my plug, seeing the Breonna Taylor and George Floyd cases, and really seeing like how they made national news, and just seeing like how white people really mimic the situation, really belittled it, like really shot it down as if it's just something that happened in the news. Like, no, this is something that's like, there's a reason why we're out here protesting, and the reason why we're doing these things in the streets is not just because we just have nothing else to do. We're tired of this going on, and I'm apparently tired of it as well. And it's like I refuse to live my life in fear. Like I have a family I want to start, I have kids I want to have. I don't want my kids to live in fear. Like, what do I do today to help them not to live like that, to put them in a situation to where they can basically have better opportunities than me? They can basically go onto this road and be judged less, be able to walk into a door and really be evaluated on what they know and not how they look. And so that's just really an important thing, is a thing of practice for myself, because not getting immediate gratification is something that like I've had to adjust to myself. Like usually I'm used to like, you know, if you get all A's, you'll be on the honor roll. Like that's the gratification. You know what it is if you get it or whatever. Like with this stuff, like you said with the pandemic as well, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. All we can do is keep our hope and our faith in our movement and in our action and keep doing it. So it's something I'm practicing for myself for longer lessons in life of, you know, just staying a course and staying structured and you know, staying disciplined to what I believe I'm fighting for is the right thing. So yeah.
That's really good. I would say for myself, what really sparked my civic engagement or just being aware of what's going on, I would say Trayvon Martin as well. I think that sparked that a lot for a lot of us. I believe we were like in middle school when that happened, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, yeah, I would say that sparked that for a lot of black men our age, or even black women that's our age, right? But I wouldn't say that I was really, oh, I guess let me say I knowing how to communicate how I felt
Mm-hmm.
about the injustices, I would say that came about maybe high school,
Yeah.
like years later, because like, yeah, I'm watching Trayvon, and I'm like, I'm hurt, like I'm really hurt, but it's like I don't know how to communicate my feelings towards that. I don't know, I don't really know, like, is this like for real?
Yeah.
Um, and then in middle school we're just it's so much going on in middle school. It's like, you hit puberty, you're doing this, you're doing that. It's like, you just you have your hands in 5 different pots, but you only have 2 hands, right?
Right.
So yeah, I would say that. Oh, the question was what inspired me. So Trayvon, I would say Trayvon Martin inspired me, but um, just being like in college, really, like honestly, being in college, going to an HBCU is what really, 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 really inspired me. Like going to school with people who look like me, who understand where I come from,
Mm-hmm.
um, who's going where I'm going. um, that really inspired me, knowing that we all have a similar agenda, which is, we just want equal rights. We just want everything to be equal. We want to stop dying on the street.
Right.
So I would say that's another inspiration that inspired me to push the Black agenda and to represent my people. And then I also really want to talk about the instant gratification that you brought up. I think that's something that our generation really needs to work on, because
Mm-hmm.
when we look at it, like, and just because it's MLK Day, I'm going to bring up him. When he was fighting, like, it wasn't the next day. Okay, y'all can vote. It took years. Like
Years.
it took work. It took a lot of work, a lot of time, and a lot of people dying, people being attacked, people losing themselves in that process. Not saying that we have to lose ourselves in this process of fighting for what's right, right? But
Mm-hmm.
we're not gonna get that the next day. It's like, let's just, like, we got to be very clear. We have to be very transparent with that. It's
Right.
not gonna happen. We have to, like you say, stay the course and keep pushing. And you know what? Not to because I'm really not trying to promote Gary Chambers. Like, yeah, I'm working for him, but I don't want y'all to think that, Carlos working his campaign, so he's just trying to promote Gary Chambers. But I really want to bring up one of his quotes, or not even a quote, one of his sayings that I really, 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 really love. And it's a joyful warrior. We have to be joyful for what we want, but we have to keep fighting for what, like, for that. So whatever it is that you want, don't let it drain you. Like, be joyful for it, but keep pushing. Like, fight for it. Like, be a
Right.
joyful warrior for sure.
Right. And I like that. I like that joyful warrior. Right. It reminds me a lot of similar to the late John Lewis with Good Trouble. Um,
Mm-hmm.
reminds me a lot of that. We're doing something that society has deemed in the past as like insubordinate and stepping on a line and um just inappropriate basically. But we're basically taking that and we're doing those things basically because we have the right to. We have the right to protest. We have the right to go and vote. But the way they look at it now is like we're criminals because we're fighting for those things. We're fighting to do the things that we are supposed to be able to do basically, and to oppressors and people that stand against us or look at it as like we're crazy. As to them, it looks like we're just trying to take over power. But it's like we're just basically trying to do things that you guys have been doing like all these years. We're stirring up good trouble. Like that's what we're doing ultimately. Just looking at like some of the most memorable moments from MLK's life, like the Montgomery bus boycott, him starting the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. That's the conference basically of the protesters that were organizing for nonviolent protest. The March on Washington, where he gave his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. Um, even to the day of him being assassinated, everything he's done in his life, basically, nothing it was done like the day after or whatever. Like it's something that it took years, months to prepare for, and years and months to actually achieve. And still to this day, we've gone decades of things that we're still trying to um still trying to figure out. Like if you never heard about Martin Luther King or anything like that, you just read a book about him, you would think that racism is over now. You would think that like he solved the problem and that everything is good now and that like all black and white people can hold hands and all everything's good. But we see that in the world where we live in, that's not the case. What he was fighting for was he knew was going to take much longer than maybe his own lifetime. Even if he did, he wasn't assassinated. He knew that this is going to be life work, basically. This is what you call life work. And this is something that we have to carry on and understand that like there's people that really had the passion and drive. They dedicated their whole lives, their own lives, to make sure that we were able to fight and continue to keep fighting, and that we were left with leadership and left with hope and faith that things will get better. That's what we've been as like just not too long ago, 1800s. Like we were like there were people that looked at us like we're slaves. Like we were considered 3/5 of a human being. So that just shows you how just in the span of 100 years, like how much like can be done basically, like in terms of if people decide to stand up and fight for what you know what I mean, make sacrifices, do those kind of things. Um, and basically, like we have to really just look at his life as an overall thing as we celebrate his day of MLK Day and his birthday that was on Friday. We have to really just celebrate like not only what he did, but like what he stood for basically. Um, and I believe what he stood for was ultimately peace and for justice and among for people of color, people that look like us, basically. Because we we can't let our foot off the gas base right now. Basically, right now, this is like the most important time for us to make sure we stay engaged. Yes, we voted in our president. Yes, we voted in our senators. But we have to, as Black people, in order for us to make that next level, that next jump of of having our voices heard and making this country into how we want it to be. Basically, we have to keep our foot in our pressure like on these people. No matter if we did vote in Biden, Biden is like we love that. Yes, Biden got in over Trump, but we just have to hold Biden and Harris as well to that same expectation that we want. Like, if you're not doing what we need you to do, we're going to get somebody in that is going to be able to do that work. Basically, we pray that they do the work they need to do, but also we remember that, like, hey, if things aren't going right, we have the ability to vote. We have the ability to put new people in the office that we feel are going to do what needs to be done. That's for all positions. It's your school board, your senators, like I said, your councilmen, um, your house, your judges. All those people basically play a big part, of a role in basically the progression of Black people. And this is what ultimately I feel like King was fighting for in his span of like what his time, his life. I know personally for me, my parents are 55. My parents are in their 50s. Like they're 52, 53 years old, basically. So my mom was born actually the same year that MLK was assassinated. So that just shows you like how close to like generations of Black people, how close we are to basically how crazy how things used to be. Basically, like my mom was actually alive during the time after MLK was assassinated, and like racism was still like on a different level than it is today. Basically, like people are a little more outright racist than they are today. Basically, so it shows you the progress of how my mom has had to adjust being in today's era and seeing like how things are completely different. And we are going to have to adjust as adults as we get older. We graduate from Dillard and go on to have kids, families, 30 years old, things like that. We're going to see a whole different jump in how the world perceives Black people and how we perceive racism and all those kind of things as well. That we have to be able to not only for ourselves understand, but give to the next people, give to the next generation. Because that's ultimately all MLK could do. He cannot live 300 years and be able to be here in today's and be able to guide us through walking through the streets or whatever. No, he gave that leadership to the next person, basically. And the next, like, we had somebody in John Lewis that was able to basically demonstrate and continue the work when he was working with MLK and serve. And so now that he has passed away, he serves as somebody that we look at as, hey, he was here in 2020 walking the streets, even though he was sick. He was walking the streets with us. This is someone that did this with MLK, basically. So the real question is, where's our leadership as Black people? Where's our leadership in our communities to make sure that we continue the work, continue the dream, and continue to stand on what Martin Luther King Jr. stood for? And that's what it's all about. As we celebrate him today and celebrate his work and celebrate his civic engagement. How do we become more civically engaged? How do we learn from what he's done, and how do we become better and make our unify and become better as people in a group?
Yeah. Um, to close it out, I would like to say, happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And I feel like, I really can't even close this out without letting y'all know that March 20th is the election day in New Orleans for New Orleans River Parishes and Baton Rouge for the second congressional seat. So like, I feel like, we voted in the presidential election. Now we gotta show up for this election for Congress in New Orleans because he didn't just fight for us to vote in the presidential election. He literally fought for our voting rights. So
Mm-hmm.
please show up. And we also have another session at 2 p.m. today, 2 to 3. And it's titled Liberty and Justice for Who? College Activism in the Face of Civil Unrest. The link is in your emails. Y'all can log on from there at 2 o'clock today. And I hope everyone, do something that makes you happy today and celebrate MLK.
Yeah. If you guys also look in your email, there was an email sent out. I believe the what is it? they have free admissions to the New Orleans Museum of Art in person today. And yeah, I believe it's up until 3 p.m. today. And they're doing a Martin Luther King Jr. Day celebration, imagining the world without racism. They have free admission. That's going until 5 p.m. So if you look in your email, they have a couple events celebrating MLK Day today with free admissions of something that you could do to, still stay civically engaged, go learn about your history, go visit some sites, make a social media post, talk to somebody, have a conversation. What about this with the boycott? What happened with this? Who's Rosa Parks? Who's Coretta Scott King? Who are these people? Ask these questions, because the moment the second you start asking the questions is the moment that you start getting to the answers you need. So there's a good day for some civic engagement, for you to learn about some history. So make sure you enjoy today. Make sure you guys wear your mask. Make sure you guys are getting your test results in. Basically, we're really trying to do this thing for the first 2 weeks to really get as many COVID results in as possible, to get a real good baseline of where we are with COVID, so we can stay here and so that we can continue to be safe in our little community of Dillard. And wash your hands, wear your mask, all that good stuff. And yes, homecoming is canceled, but we will be, hopefully when everything clears up with COVID, we'll try to get something fun for y'all to do. And so thank you guys for coming on. Like I said, my name is Justin Matthews. You're Mr. Dillard, and thank you guys.
Thank y'all.
All right.